people are so afraid that their child is going to come home and say, I'm they, them.
Is whatever that means to them.
They're assigning meaning to it. If my child is a they, them, then that means they've been brainwashed. They've been indoctrinated. I'm going to lose control. Who even cares, right? It's about, is your child healthy? Is your child happy? And the reality is, based on the studies I've read, if you accept your child no matter what, then your child will be happy. Hey, pod people. Welcome to this week's episode of Why Do People Do That? So this week, we are inspired by a pretty ugly Facebook post that I saw this week that got me all fired up. And I called Heather and I started ranting about it. And then we decided, hey,
let's do that for a podcast.
Let's stop talking about it so we can do a podcast on it. So our title of this week's podcast is Leave Them Alone.
Ooh.
And what are we talking about when we talk about them?
They, them.
That's
right. Pronouns.
The they, thems of the world. Why can't we leave them alone? So I guess to start us off, I will share with you guys just briefly what this Facebook post was about. It was on a mom group in Facebook, and a mom really genuinely just was a little bit sad, scared, and overwhelmed, and looking for advice on how she could help her child who had, I guess, previously that day or the day before, just recently come home and shared that they had decided they were non-binary and that they wanted to be addressed as they, them. The child was 13 years old. And mom was just at a loss for what to do or what is the right thing to do, because I think there's a lot of confusing mixed messages out there about the right thing to do, I guess.
I'm kind of impressed with the mom actually looking for support and answers and information.
Yeah, what do I do?
Facebook is probably not the best place to look for it, but I can appreciate a mom who wants to do the right thing by their child and is looking for feedback and is open to how do I, navigate this in an appropriate way.
At least she was asking human beings and not bots. However, right, if you go into a group, a mom group that has, thousands and thousands and thousands of members to this group. It's a big one. So, this mom was really just looking for some guidance in basically a room full of other concerned moms who have a lot of passion and I guess very strong beliefs about what the right thing to do is. And I don't know what drew me to want to see what the comments were, but I
know where it's going.
I did.
It is completely polarized and it is too complete.
I was curious what advice the moms were going to give, and it really just hurt my heart. It felt a little bit sick seeing some of the comments. Some were as drastic as you need to move.
Because they wouldn't be a they, them in a different county?
In a different school district. It must be the school district. It must be this community. It must be the school they go to.
And their kid might catch it?
Yes. So, basically the overall theme there, for the most part, there were definitely some varying opinions. There were some people on there that were it's really important to recognize the stage of development your child is in. And this is a time when it's normal for children to look and seek out their identity. And maybe instead of judging, just meet them where they're at. Be curious about why they are non-binary or identifying as non-binary. Ask them what it means.
What that means to them. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. What does this mean to you? And ask them to explain it and talk about it and just open up the lines of communication without judgment, and just know that wherever your child is going to land, they're going to land, and that this is a very difficult age anyway. And this is a normal time of searching out, where do I belong and where do I fit in and how do I see myself, in general as a 13-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
When we just look at stages of development, right? 13-year-olds are right there, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to figure out
who they are. We were talking about this before. What kind of music they like, what kind of sport they want to play. If they want to play a sport, do they want to play an instrument? Are they going to be goth or a jock? What their identity is.
Yeah, where do
they're going to fit in.
Where do they see themselves in terms of religion? Do they believe in God? Do they not believe in God? Right? What are their beliefs about anything, really? And what group of friends do they have, right? Like kids at that age, that's why we talk about how socializing is so important at that age, because finding their group and finding their people.
Yep.
Finding who they connect with, right? What music they like. There's so many different intricacies that go into every little thing that a child chooses at that age, because it is that part of their growth where they are separating from their parents and they're saying, I'm not going to just believe everything my mom or dad believes. I'm going to figure out what I believe. I'm going to figure out what I think. And it can be a scary time for parents. It can be uncomfortable. It can sometimes cause a parent-child conflict, where parents feel like they're starting to lose a little bit of control.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to really take a step back and allow for
that development and that moving away from
that
parental kind of unit.
Right. You have to let your child, even if it's uncomfortable for you as a parent, you have to let your child find themselves. And so if your child goes through a phase or a period of, I don't know how I feel in my gender, I don't know, why is that not okay? Why is that so concerning? And there's so many things that I want to say about that. So I'm thinking about where I want to start. And I feel like, what's coming to my mind first and foremost is, so many parents in this post use the word indoctrinating, and that their kids are being indoctrinated by the schools to believe that they have a choice in their gender and that they are not their biological gender and that they have to figure out who they are and how it's so crazy and this, that, and the other thing. And I don't want to get too into what they said. But here's what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is, aren't gender roles something that has been indoctrinated onto society from like the beginning of time?
Absolutely.
I mean, let's forget about like 1,000 years ago. Let's just talk about like when we were tots, right? I mean, you're a little girl, you're given dolls.
Yep. And the kitchen set.
And a kitchen set. Yeah, I had a kitchen set. Did you have a kitchen set?
I didn't, but.
Did you have plastic food?
Yes.
Okay. So you kind of had a kitchen set. You just didn't have like a plastic stove and refrigerator.
I got one for my daughter.
Okay. So I remember my grandparents bought it for me. It was this big wooden refrigerator.
Oh, I take it back. I did.
You
it was
did?
wood.
Yeah.
It was at the grandparents' house.
Okay.
I'm having flashbacks now.
Okay. We might have had the same one.
The only one available in the 70s.
Yeah. And I remember having like a rubber fake hamburger. And I remember like, asking my parents what they wanted for dinner and then serving them plastic food. And I remember having dolls and, baby diapers, and then, having Barbie dolls and having the Barbie dream house and having a cash register. And I remember having like a fake phone so I could play secretary.
Oh, yes. I
right?
did that.
Yeah. And I remember we would play teacher and we would play secretary. We played waitress.
Yep. So these very historically feminine gender roles.
Right.
And gender jobs.
This is what I was indoctrinated to be, right? You're a girl, Stacy. So here's your girl stuff. And my brother, on the other hand, had like plastic tools.
Oh, David with plastic tools is comical.
It is funny, right? It's so funny. And he had trucks. I remember he liked trucks, and I remember him having this big yellow Tonka truck, and I remember him getting the big Hess truck from the Hess gas stations for Christmas every year, and like that was the stuff he was given, you know. And then I had children, and I have a boy and a girl, and without even thinking, right, same thing.
Yep.
Right.
The girl toys and the boy toys.
Pink clothes and dolls and strawberry shortcakes, this, that, and the other thing. And my daughter got a kitchen set, and my son got a McDonald's drive-through set. So he got to play food also, but he was just like the dude
a little more
that
butch,
works at butch.
Masculine. Sorry.
It was acceptable for him to be the dude that works at the drive-thru at McDonald's, but it wouldn't be acceptable for him to have a kitchen.
The pink kitchen.
Right? And you know that there are definitely parents out there that like don't want to buy their son a kitchen or a doll, and don't want to buy their daughter tools or trucks. It's just not really happening. I'm not going to say it never happens, but we are taught from birth on that if you're a girl, these are your expectations. You're going to be a mom. You're going to be a bride. You're going to be a secretary.
I think things have started to evolve, but I totally get what you're saying. And I mean, the way we were raised, that was it. And even along those lines too, you know, you're talking girl and boy toys. Like it wasn't until really, 10, 20 years ago that like gender neutral clothing started coming up. And you know, baby clothes were either pink or they were blue. There was never, you know, the green and yellow and like the neutrals. Like you were forced to buy one or the other.
Right. You had to find out what gender your baby was going to be so you knew what to buy. Right. Because it was like, well, do I paint the walls pink or do I paint them blue? Right. And so from birth, there's expectations, you know, and you and I have talked about this in a couple of our other podcast episodes. We talked about it in our Mom Guilt episode. Right. And it's come up a bunch of times,
and even
right?
With the toys too.
The toy one also, right? We've talked about like our role as women and the expectation that society puts on us, right? To be a mom, and what does it mean to be a good mom? And what does it mean to be a wife? And what does it mean to be a good wife? And what is the role of a woman? And what does society expect of us? And how are we supposed to behave? Even in our sex video, right? We talked about the differences in our gender roles with our relationship with sex and pleasure. Right. And so, I mean, if we're going to talk about indoctrination, I mean, like, let's get real, people. Am I wrong?
No.
So let me ask you this. If we're going to really look at this through the lens of indoctrination, if our children, you know, are going through their phase of who am I? What am I about? How do I see myself? And they're going to say, I'm going to just be they, them until I figure out what it means to me to be a girl. If I'm born biologically female and I have a vagina and all that jazz, all that jazz, what does that mean to me? So is it that child is being indoctrinated, or is it that child is pushing against indoctrination and saying,
I want to make a decision for myself. I don't want to force myself to fit into these small boxes of A or B and boy or girl.
Right. Like maybe that, you know, being a they, them is making a statement of the female gender role is this and the male gender role is that. And like, just cool off for a minute. I want to figure out who I am before all this is just forced down my throat. Do I want to be a mother? Do I want to be a wife? What do I want my job to be? What career do I want to go for? Like, what do I believe? What do I think? What is my attitude towards sex? What is my attitude towards this, that, or the other thing? Maybe I don't want society to feed to me what I'm supposed to think or what I'm supposed to be just because of what genitals I have. Maybe I want to just put a pin in that. And I want to figure out what I think and then say, okay, I'm a girl and this is what it means to me to be a girl. Or I'm a boy and this is what it means to me to be a boy. Or maybe I don't want society to tell me what I'm supposed to be. And that's why I choose they, them. And it's not because I'm confused or I don't know what I am, but it's because I do know what I am, and it's not what society is going to force me to be. It's going to be what I choose to be. And so I don't fit into the mold of what a girl is. And I don't fit into the mold of what a boy is. I'm just me. And I'm going to either like
Why
boys.
do we have to label it?
Right. Exactly. I'm either going to like girls or I'm going to like boys. And this is the job I'm going to do. And this is how I'm going to like to dress. And I'm just going to be a human. And I'm going to fight against the indoctrination of what gender roles are by being a they, them, right? So isn't it possible that our children that are choosing to be they, thems are really just smarter than the rest of us? And they're just like, hold on, society.
I want to make this decision for myself and not do what people expect of me and because of how I was born.
Exactly. I need to figure myself out. And this is how I figure myself out. And maybe this is just a shift in culture. And because it's a change, it's a difference, it's something different, people are freaking out about it a little bit because something different is scary. What does this mean that my child wants to be a they, them? It means they're just going through their journey of identity and they're trying to figure out who they are. And most likely, if your 13-year-old is a they, them, by the time they're 20, they're probably going to be something other than a they, them. Let them figure it out.
They might choose to land on one side or the other or remain in that non-binary fluid kind of place.
Right. And what if that is what happens? What if they're 40 and they're just like, I don't really fit into the societal norms of girl or boy, and I'm just they.
Then they are going to have to fight with adults at jobs about their pronouns.
Well, maybe like 30 years from now, we will evolve and it won't be like it is right this minute. But the reality is that I think there's this belief out there, right? So if we're going to really get into the mind of the parents in this post that are like, move, you need to pack and move. I was like, wow. Like, we're selling a house and moving. Where are we going exactly? Right? Like
the land of the they, them.
Oh my gosh. Away from where they, them is allowed. Okay. So if we're going to get into the mindset of that mom that's freaking out, that's like, move, you need to move, right? Well, let's talk for a minute about why this is scary for people, because we don't want to invalidate, we want to understand. So why is it scary for some parents to hear that their child or that other children that their children might be associating with are deciding that they're non-binary and that they're they, them?
I think the biggest issue is not understanding it, really. Not really understanding what it means and not understanding even the difference between identity and sexuality. Like how they're choosing to identify and what gender they're choosing to identify is completely different than who they're sexually attracted to, assuming that at 13 they're sexually attracted to one gender or another or both.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? It's about identity, right? Like, so let's compare it for a minute to, when we were growing up, if a little girl felt a little bit more like she wanted to be like a boy, like she was a little bit more masculine in the way she chose to dress or
climbed trees and played sports and wasn't the cheerleader and
exactly
playing with dolls. They were a tomboy.
Exactly. Digging in the dirt and playing with worms, right? They were a tomboy. We called them a tomboy, right? And that was that little girl's identity, right? I'm a tomboy. Like I'm a girl, but
I like playing with boy things.
If I like playing with boy things, then I'm not a girl, I'm a tomboy. We had a name for it. We called it something, didn't we?
We did.
Right? So what that tells us right there is that there is, like we were saying before, an expectation that if you're a girl, you're going to act and dress a certain way. And if you don't, we are going to label you as a society, which means you are not the norm. You are not normal. You are not meeting expectations. You are different. That doesn't feel good.
No.
Right? So for those little girls that are the tomboys, for the little girls that are not meeting those roles, right? They're not playing with dolls. They're not making bracelets on the playground.
And wearing pink and wearing makeup and yep.
Right. And wanting to go to, Sephora and get the latest concealer or whatever
lip stain
they're talking about on TikTok. The little girls that want to, play zookeeper, or the little girls that, want to play baseball or have a catch, right? Or go look for earthworms or, inchworms that are hanging from the trees, right? We've definitely given them the message that something is wrong. And we've labeled them in society for years and years and years. That's what we grew up with, tomboys.
So it's not even that it's a new phenomenon. It's that this whole woke society has created all this confusion. This has been around forever.
It's just a different title.
Yes.
It's the same thing. But I'll tell you something. I think that it's better. I'll tell you why.
Tell me why.
Because when a little girl was a tomboy, it was a name we gave her. We were labeling her and we were calling her something. We were picking her out from the bunch. And we're like, look at all those little girls and look at that one wearing boy shorts.
Climbing a tree.
And Converse sneakers and a baseball cap, and her knees are all dirty and she wants to climb the tree. She's not normal. She's not like all the other little girls. She's not meeting the expectations of what other 11-year-old girls should be doing. Let's give her a name. Let's call her something. And now she's labeled. How does that make her feel?
I mean, it's going to impact her self-esteem. She's going to feel awful. She's going to feel like she's disappointing people.
100%. Even worse, what happens when it's the boy who feels a little bit more feminine in his personality and doesn't want to play sports or dig in the dirt or play with trucks?
Did that even have a name? I mean, was there a name?
There was.
Yeah, I feel like.
It wasn't a good one.
No.
It was a bad name.
Yeah.
Right? So it was almost more acceptable for girls to be boyish, but
100%.
But still they were labeled, right? And it was at a negative connotation. Boys
not
were called
the same as like
bad words. They were called mean things, right? The F word or a sissy.
I was going with sissy.
Yep. They were sissies.
Yeah.
Oh, look, he plays with dolls, or he has a kitchen, or he's whatever, right? So they were labeled and they were put down and they were made fun of and they were seen as not the norm, right?
Yes.
So here's where the they, them is different. And this is why I like it better. Even though it's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? This is not new, people, at all, right? Children have been challenging the indoctrination of gender roles forever, always. This is not new. This is not something school's teaching them to be. This is just natural. It is natural for children to say, that's not who I am. That's not how I feel. Here's the difference. The sissy and the tomboy were labeled. The child who decides that they're non-binary, the child who decides to call themselves a they, them, that's them taking the initiative. That's them taking control. That's them finding a place where they fit, where they say, I'm not the only little girl who wants to dig in the dirt and find an earthworm. I'm not the only little boy who wants to play kitchen and play with a doll.
Which is so much more, I mean, it's empowering and doesn't have the same kind of negative society, impact that is going to fuck up the kid, for lack of a better
Exactly.
word.
Exactly. It's empowering. It's empowering. I've decided that I don't agree with gender roles that are standard for being a boy or for being a girl. And I'm not really sure what that means for me, but you know what? I don't care. I'm proud of who I am. And I'm going to take this time to figure this out for myself. And for now, I'm going to just say I'm a they or I'm a them. And I'm going to figure out what I want to be in life, where I stand, where I fit, where I belong. And I'm not the only one. I belong in this group, this subgroup called the they, thems, and I'm figuring it all out. That's all it is.
So why is it so threatening to people?
Right. So let's get back to our question. Why is it scary?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is it scary?
Because it's different. Because I think people genuinely don't understand it.
Right. So when people don't understand something, they create their own truths.
And it becomes a fear. And then there becomes this whole fear-mongering thing that happens.
Right. And so if we are going to go with, I think that talking about being indoctrinated, I think that a lot of society is being indoctrinated to believe that this is a bad thing and that this is a new thing and that this is an agenda that's being pushed. And they're not recognizing that this is just something that's always existed, that's just evolved into
being recognized and actually having a name.
It's
and
just
having
a cultural shift. And I think the reason there's a cultural shift is not because of woke. It's not because of the liberals. It's not because of any agenda. It's because we're all connected now. It's because of technology. People are connected. They're forming groups.
Finding their people.
They're connecting with each other. They're finding their people. They're organizing, which isn't bad necessarily.
No.
Right?
Everyone needs people.
It can be bad sometimes, depending on what it is, but this isn't a bad thing. It's like, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only little girl that wants to wear boy shorts. I'm not the only little boy that wants to play with the kitchen.
Or just doesn't feel comfortable necessarily in their body, in their gender, in how they're expected to look and to dress and to act.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, I've had patients over the years before the whole they, them movement was so popular who would come in and just be like, I don't feel comfortable, like wearing a dress. I don't want to wear a dress. I don't like the attention. I don't like, the whole male gaze and the way that men look at me like I'm a girl. And I don't like how that feels. And like, I feel more comfortable just wearing a pair of jeans and a flannel. And my mom is mad that I dress this way and she's embarrassed of me and she keeps buying me dresses and pink shirts and, and this was a patient from a really long time ago, really before they, them was a thing. And so this is not something new, but this is something that humans and especially adolescents have been struggling with since the dawn of time.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have found a way to build awareness around it and give it a name that is empowering and that a child can own and understand and express themselves with, that feels comfortable and that feels empowering and that makes them feel like they're not an outcast, then that's okay. I think it becomes scary when society is being indoctrinated to believe that this is an agenda that's being pushed on them, that is brainwashing their children into thinking there's something that they're not, So I did some research and I looked to see, has there been any research done? Are there any incidents of, because we're spreading more awareness about this and it's on social media and schools have become they're not indoctrinating people about it or brainwashing them.
There's an awareness, there's a respect, there's a changing with the times, a building gender neutral bathrooms.
Going with it.
Yep.
Right. Exactly.
Recognizing that this is, there's a movement towards this.
Right. You want to be they, them instead of he, him. Okay. Right. That's all the school's really doing. Just respecting it. I think that parents think that it's contagious. They think that their children are confused and that it's confusing children and that children that do identify as being a girl are now thinking that they're a they, them, or children that do identify as a boy are thinking that they're a he, him, and that now straight children are going to become gay children or that, boys are going to become girls or girls are going to become boys and that their kids are going to be all screwed up. And the research that I found says otherwise.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. So the research I found stated that supporting kids in finding their identity, whether it be about gender or a career or religion or any belief at all, regardless of what it is, and being curious about it and understanding it and keeping the lines of communication open about it, actually reduces anxiety, reduces depression, and reduces confusion about identity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's normal for preteens and adolescents to go on a search for identity, that most kids know how they feel in their gender by the age of 3 or 4. They feel girly or they feel boyish or they don't feel either, or they feel uncomfortable with what's being pressed upon them or they go with it and it feels right to them, that's something that comes naturally to them, and that it is unusual actually for them to be confused about it.
Yeah. Like I never thought about being a girl. Like I was born a girl. I guess I always felt like a girl, and I never had to kind of think about what does it mean to be a girl, and did I, feel like it was just normal for me.
Yeah. Did you have any girls that you knew in your neighborhood or in your school that were considered tomboys?
I'm thinking of like one or two that are, were not kind of stereotypical girl. Like,
yep. I can think of a bunch actually. Right. So did they confuse you?
No, they did not.
It didn't make you want to question your sexuality or your gender or your identity?
They did not.
Yeah. You felt like this is who I am, right? Like if you align with the societal gender roles that, we kind of just adhere to, and that feels right to you, then that is going to be who you are.
Yeah.
And that's okay too, right? I'm not here to say everyone should be an they, them. Everyone should be exactly what they feel they are, right? And if anybody feels like I don't really jive with that, I don't know that that's me, and saying I feel uncomfortable calling myself a she, her when I don't fit into the societal roles of being a girl, I feel better saying I'm a they, them, because then I'm not doing it wrong. I'm not different. I'm not non-conforming. There's this whole other group
realm
of people that I belong to, and I'm not different there. I'm not doing it wrong there.
The expectations are whatever you want them to be. You
Just
don't have to be one thing or the other. Gender
neutral, right? That's what we're talking about. I don't really adhere to the girl roles, and I don't really adhere to the boy roles. I'm neither.
Or I'm both.
Or sometimes I feel a little bit more like this, and sometimes I feel a little bit more like that. But now I no longer have to feel like I'm doing it wrong.
I think so much of it is really not understanding. Like I'm thinking of a colleague at work who, traditional male boy, and, started wearing makeup and started wearing heels and and I think he was sort of feeling out to see if we'd accept them, wearing that. And I think if he would have rolled in the first day like that, like people would have kind of had a response, but because, his colleagues had an opportunity to get to know them as a person, like when they came in with heels, it was like, oh, all right. Like, it's the same person, just in heels today. And like, it wasn't really a big deal because you knew the individual without, having to kind of decide what that label meant. Like, it didn't mean anything because that person was a great person.
And they feel like wearing heels today.
Yeah. And some days they're in heels and some days they're not. And that's their decision, and that's okay. And I think I hope they feel kind of accepted by the people around at work.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are plenty of people that do accept, and there are going to be those that don't. And I think the people that don't accept, I don't think they're bad people. I don't think that their intentions are to be hurtful. When I look at this Facebook post, I don't think that there was one parent, there was not one mother in that post that meant harm. I think that they were genuinely trying to give the advice that they, with all their heart, believed was the right advice. I think what saddens me is that there's so little tolerance for different opinions, right? That they couldn't allow themselves, in the comments. I mean, and there was like hundreds of comments. They couldn't just allow for a different point of view. They had to attack.
It became an argument.
It became an argument. Any mother that said, any of the things I'm saying, that said, it's like one of the mothers said, it is my understanding that it's a normal phase of development for your child at this age to kind of seek out and find their identity and figure out who they are. Most likely, they're probably not going to, say that they're non-binary forever. It could be temporary, but this is where they're at right now, trying to figure themselves out. The best thing you can do as a parent is just be curious about it and understand it and let them know that they're seen and accepted and loved no matter what. And so many parents just ripped this poor mother apart. And a couple of different people started saying, oh, you're one of those gentle parenting nuts and this, that, and the other thing. So there's this, there's this whole battle between, different parenting strategies. And there's just no patience or tolerance for
anything that's different.
The opportunity to say, hey, we have different ideas about how to parent, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You believe this way is the right way. I believe that way is the right way. And let's respect each other. Right? But oh my gosh, I mean,
social media is not a place of respect.
Oh my God. But I wonder what that conversation would have been like in person.
Mm. You know what? Something like this gets people fired up.
But again, why? Why are people are so afraid that their child is going to come home and say, I'm they, them.
Yeah.
Right? It's like they're
because whatever that means to them.
Yeah. If they're assigning meaning to it, if my child is a they, them, then that means they've been brainwashed. They've been indoctrinated. I'm going to lose control. Right?
Or God forbid they're gay.
Maybe they're gay. Right? And that's not even what that means.
No,
you could be a they, them and not be gay.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, and what if they are gay? Right? Who even cares?
Yeah.
Right? It's about, is your child healthy? Is your child happy?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, based on the studies I've read, if you accept your child no matter what, then your child will be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It starts at home. Right? If you're worried about your child having a hard time in society because they're different, regardless of why they're different, regardless of it being about sexual orientation or identity or they, them or whatever, because they're wearing heels, if they like weird music, whatever it is, if your child is different, if you accept them and you see them and you love them, then they're learning that they are acceptable, that they are okay, that they are lovable, and they will reject those around them that reject them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, well, I'm okay. I know I'm okay. I know that I'm accepted and I'm loved and that this is okay. And if someone doesn't love me, that's all right. Then that's not my person.
But there are people that do love me.
Yeah. Because if you are going to buy into being scared of what everyone else is going to think or what everyone else is going to say or what all the other moms are going to think on the Facebook post, right?
The worst.
And you're going to succumb to that and you're going to now put pressure on your child and tell them they're not allowed to be a they, them, and call the school and say, under no circumstance did you give in to my child wanting to be called this. And you make them feel like there's something wrong with them. And, you refuse to allow them the opportunity to find their identity the way that they're choosing to find their identity. They are going to feel bad about themselves.
Absolutely.
It is going to harm their self-esteem.
Yep.
If we were to take this away from the whole they, them thing for a minute, and we were to say, what if your child came home and said, I really love Metallica?
I was just thinking, I want to be goth, which isn't necessarily Metallica, but the more you
Let's go with that.
The more, a parent tries to take that away from allowing a child to do, the more they're going to rebel and want to do it just to prove a point.
Because they need to find themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It is a natural developmental need to separate a little bit from their parents, to delve into society, to see what is around them, to look at their peers, and to figure out, who am I? What do I believe? What do I think? Where do I fit? Where do I see myself? How do I see myself? This is an absolutely necessary part of development. It is part of emotional and cognitive growth. And we have to allow it even though it's uncomfortable for us as parents. And so sometimes our kid is going to do something that is uncomfortable because it's not something we align with. So if we were to go with, the example you just gave is our kid comes home and says, I'm goth. I want to start wearing all black, and I'm going to wear black lipstick and black nail polish and black clothes, and I'm going to dye my hair blue, and I'm going to look a little bit different than the other girls or the other boys, whatever.
Kids.
The other kids, the other thems.
Not even thems, just everybody.
The other people, the other humans.
I found my goth group. I want to look like that.
Yep. And I think even that can be scary to a parent. If a kid comes home and they have a hobby that is just a little bit off the beaten track and a little bit different than what all the other kids are doing, parents are afraid of that too.
Yeah.
Right? I think that what we all really want as parents is for our kids to fit in, to be happy, to feel good about themselves. And I think that if a child presents with a little bit of difficulty or a little bit of being different, right? If they, kind of like present with even just a little bit of weird, right? I think that parents get scared.
Mm-hmm.
Is my child going to be bullied? Is my child going to have a hard time? What is it going to feel like for me as a parent to observe the pain that my child is in because they're not fitting in or because they're different or because other kids are calling them names? How am I going to feel as a parent amongst the other parents?
Yeah, that's a big one.
When the other parents see my child and say, oh,
they're different.
Your kid has blue hair, or
Mhm.
your kid's got black lipstick on, or your kid's not wearing a dress to the prom, whatever it is, I think that it's human nature to want to feel like you're part of the tribe. Right? That's what breeds safety.
Mm-hmm.
We feel safe when we're part of a tribe. And I think that as parents, we have to kind of take a step back. We have to take a deep breath. We have to know what normal child development looks like. And we have to know that our kids are just trying to find their tribes. Right? And it might be the they, them tribe. And
might be the goth.
Be the goth tribe. And it might be the Metallica tribe. And it might be the Dungeons and Dragons tribe. And it might be the mean girl plastics tribe.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things out there, but it's part of the journey and it's part of growing, and it can be painful. But the best thing you could possibly do for your child and for yourself is accept, be curious, keep the lines of communication open, and don't catastrophize.
Yep. To just support them.
Yeah. As long as they're safe.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I've got 6 pages of why does they, them make people so uncomfortable? And it's essentially 6 pages of it's cis white male privilege and, just kind of thinking that the difficulty with it being anything different.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. What kind of things are you seeing on your pages that bring us to the idea that this is about privilege?
So you haven't considered that trans or non-binary people even exist. It means you don't have to think about the fact that others live lives and experiences that are different from yours. So it's there, acknowledging.
It's about,
Yep.
Not understanding the complexities of having a struggle or feeling different, right? Like if you are born as a boy or a girl and you just really feel really comfortable with the societal gender roles that are placed upon your biological gender, and you just roll with it, and you're a girl and you love being a girl and you love playing with dolls and you love wearing pink, and that's fine. I'm not judging that at all. That's great. I'm a girly girl. I don't care. But if you have that experience, you don't understand the pain and the confusion around not feeling aligned with that. And to be like, what's wrong with me? Mm-hmm. Why am I different? Why do I not want that? Right? So that's what privilege means. It's not understanding what the experience is of having that struggle.
And this is interesting. You're secure in your gender because the people around you constantly validate and affirm it. You never had to think about what pronouns you use. It just seemed obvious to you. So again, this just not even thinking that other people exist or have, don't necessarily fit into those identified boxes.
Do you think that there's a threat at all? Like, do you think that part of the fear is around threat? Do people who, are in this place of privilege, who don't have a struggle, do they feel threatened? Like, why are people so, opposed to just, like you sent me that comedian today he was so funny. Who was just like, somebody says, I want to be called they, them. And you have two choices. Like, you can either be like, okay. Or you can just be like, oh my God.
Well, yeah, he goes through the whole thing and you can fight them on it and you can try to explain to them that doesn't really make sense and to, try to berate them and this, or you can say, okay, and call them they, them.
And move on with your life because it doesn't affect
you. And
you.
when you misgender them, you apologize and you return to calling them they, them. Like, it's just respecting, if someone asks you to, my name is William, but I like to be called Will, you call them Will because that's what they're asking you to call them. Like, it does nothing to me whether I call you Will or William or Billy or Willie, like
or Barbara.
Well, yeah. But no, if someone asks you to call them a certain thing, like if you call them that thing, like it has no bearing on my life whatsoever.
No.
For me to call you what you're asking me to call you.
So where's the threat? Because I think when you talk, when you're talking about people who are in a place of privilege, who are uncomfortable with seeing somebody else's struggle and not being able to relate to it and being angry about it, I feel like there's fight or flight in it. I feel like there's fear in it because there's threat. What is the threat? What do you think? Is there anything in there that kind of really speaks to the threat that they are kind of bringing in?
Just the idea that no, there's not. You don't respect people's humanity. You're working to actively keep the status quo. So there's going to be a change. I think people fear change.
Yeah. It's shaking the status quo, right? Like, what does it mean for me that now this exists, right?
It should really mean absolutely nothing to you. It should not impact your life whatsoever what someone chooses to be called.
No, but I think that there is definitely a belief out there that it does somehow or that it will somehow. And I think that's part of what becomes scary for people, right? This feeling of like, if this becomes the way it is, what does that do for me? Is it going to, in some ways, shift my status? If I have to consider that, does it somehow take away my privilege? Does it somehow make me unsafe? I definitely hear people and I agree with this part. I think there's merit to it when someone says, you don't always know when somebody is considering themselves a different gender than they are or that they appear to be. Sometimes somebody really looks like a boy, but they're identifying as a female, or they're identifying as they, them. And you don't mean any harm when you refer to them as the gender that they appear to be. You're assuming their gender, I guess, which we're going to do. We're going to assume people's genders because how else do we address people, right? And we don't mean any harm when we're doing that. And so I definitely hear the argument when people say, I did not mean anything by it. I did not know that so-and-so was a they, them, or I forgot that they were a they, them, and they look like a boy. So I said he, and I didn't mean anything by it. I think that on the other hand, that needs to be respected too, right? We can't be mad at everybody that screws that up.
Yeah.
Because it's not always a sign of disrespect.
No, I think we've all become accustomed to just responding to that, like she, or, he. And I don't think it's, intended to be insulting at all.
No. So I think we have to make room for that. I understand the argument about sports somewhat. I understand that maybe it might be unfair to biological girls to have a male on their team who may have an advantage or may be stronger than them, or they could get hurt. So I don't know that the argument here is entirely black and white. I think that there's some gray.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing. But I think at the very least, as society, we have to really take a step back and just look at this for what it is and understand that this is just about people wanting to feel comfortable with who they are. That's all it is. It's about wanting to just say, I don't want, they're just trying to push away having things forced down their throat.
What society expects of them.
Right?
Yep.
And society is now saying, but now you're forcing this down my throat. Right? But the non-binary person or the trans person might turn around and say, well, my whole life,
you've been forcing this down.
You've been forcing this down my throat, since the dawn of time. This has been forced down all of our throats that girls are this way and boys are this way, right? So I think we have to take a step back and understand that nothing can be forced down our throat unless we allow it. There's going to be beliefs and, ideas and statements and thoughts. And we, as people, have to just look at all of the different possibilities out there and understand there's these beliefs and there's these thoughts and there's these ideas. And I get to choose what I think makes sense for me. And I'm going to allow and make space for the other person to decide what makes sense for them. And if what makes sense for me and what makes sense for them is different,
that's okay.
That's okay, because if what makes sense for them is different than what makes sense for me, that doesn't threaten what makes sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
We can all kind of live together in this world where different things make sense for different people. That's all anyone's asking for. That's all that this is about. It's about wanting to empower ourselves to say, this is how I see myself. And I just want you to respect and understand how I see myself. You don't have to agree, but this is how I see myself. And I want to just make that statement. I want people to know that this is how I see myself, because otherwise I feel like I'm letting everybody down because I'm not
being authentic.
Mm-hmm. I'm not being what everyone expects me to be. I want to be who I am and not what everyone's telling me to be. And I think that that's all that they're asking for. Right? That's all they're asking for.
All they want.
That's all they want is just let me be who I am. Let me feel out what makes sense for me. And I think that the people out there who are girls or boys and identify with their gender role of birth, who are feeling so threatened, have to understand is that all the others are asking for is what you have. Mm-hmm. The right to identify the way that you choose to identify and feel good identifying. No one has to be a threat to anybody. Right? It just doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Right? We have to just allow change and understand that change does not take away anyone's rights, right? I think freedom exists as long as our freedom doesn't infringe upon the safety of others. And allowing a they, them to call themselves a they, them does not infringe upon the safety and well-being of others.
Despite what crazy moms on Facebook think?
Yes. So I think our message is...
leave them alone.
Leave them alone.
Respect people's pronouns.
Yeah, like who cares, right? It doesn't really take that much to allow space for the other person to put their pronouns in their email signature if that's what they choose to do.
And you don't have to put she, her on your email signature.
Forcing anybody to do that.
Nope. I think people that do that identify as their assigned gender, are doing it to kind of say it's okay to other people.
Yeah, and it is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is, right? So I think, at the end of the day, my whole point here, I think our whole point is just parents, regardless if it's about gender identity or being non-binary or being trans or whatever it is, right? It could be about what color your kid wants to dye their hair or what brand jeans they want to wear or what friends they choose to be with or what music they listen to. Finding identity is a part of development. It's important, it's necessary, and it is scary for parents. And that's okay. Sometimes we have to realize that the human experience means that we're going to be scared, but we're going to do it anyway, right? So
we can do hard things.
We can do hard things, yes. Sometimes things are scary, so we do it scared, right? And having a teenager is scary, regardless of what their gender identity is. It's a scary time. But the best thing you can do for your child is to just see them, make space for them, and accept them, no matter what, as long as they're not a danger to themselves or others.
I hope that it's inspired parents struggling with this.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you are out there and it's not you or it's not your kid struggling, but you know somebody else that is, extending that olive branch and seeing and honoring and accepting really makes it a lot easier for that mom.
Yeah.
Right? Who feels alone or embarrassed or scared.
Or judged.
Right? Just see her and just say, you know what? Good for you. You're doing a great job. You're being a great mom. This isn't an easy time. And you know what? Kudos to you that you're allowing your child this time to grow and develop through this stage of separation, individuation, which is a normal stage of development. So, did we miss anything?
Probably. We could talk about this for hours.
Any last thoughts, comments, questions, anything sticking out on that paper that you didn't read that you want to share with us before we go?
No, it's lots of pages. But, the last line is you don't have to understand why someone uses their pronouns in order to respect them and to use them.
Yeah.
Which I think is an important thing. Like, you don't need to understand or agree with it, but when someone asks you to call them they, them, or someone wants to change their name to a much more neutral name, like, use it.
Try your best.
It's not hard.
You might forget sometimes, and that's okay. Right? And I think that our message maybe to the folk that are non-binary is, give everybody a chance, give them a break and understand that if they do forget, right, or they use the wrong pronoun, right, to give them a little leeway.
Yep.
Because it doesn't.
To politely correct.
Yeah,
and
because they might not
on.
mean anything by it. Doesn't mean that they're not meeting you where you're at, right? But at the end of the day, as a society, we are going to be healthier and happier if we can honor each other's differences and make space for it without being afraid of it.
Yep.
Right? Change is hard, but everything that is currently normal and familiar to us was once something new. Right?
We've had to evolve.
We evolve. Right? So I think that's it then.
Okay.
That's a wrap. All right, people. So leave them alone.
Be nice to them.
See them, be nice.
Love
right?
them. Respect
Love them. Yeah. Let's all just see each other and be friends. Support the parents out there that are in it, going through it. So with that said, remember to subscribe wherever you are watching or listening so that you can be reminded when new episodes come out, because that helps you and it helps the podcast. You can see us on YouTube and you can listen on Apple and
Spotify and iHeartRadio.
Yep. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And that's it. So with that said, I am Stacy.
And I'm Heather.
And we are Why Do People Do That? We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Why Do People Do That is recorded and produced by Press Record Studios.